And how are you folks today? This is chapter 2. It'll be video 2A. We may have a B and C. I'm not quite certain yet, but as time goes on, we will tell. But this is chapter 2. We're taking approximately a chapter a week, so this should be the second week. Now, if you finish this in the first week, that's great. If you finish this in the fifth week, that'll be interesting. So the important thing is to keep up, because this course is based on approximately one chapter a week. And chapter 2 is called the integrative approach. And this is what is kind of interesting when we talk about the integrative approach, because we wonder, what are we integrating? And this chapter, it does a beautiful job in talking about the integration of the various behaviors and how this is somehow affected in the brain. And then we take the brain and maybe hijack the brain, because we can hijack the brain. The brain does a very good job on its own. The brain passes out chemicals that's needed when they are needed, and it does a very good job. But there are times when individuals hijack the brain, and so I want to look at that area also. But we're looking at the interaction between what is inherited, the genes, and environmental influences. There is a definite interaction between the two. There was an individual in the 60s, Thomas Szasz, stated that there's no such thing as an abnormality, that it was merely a problem in living. And at that time, they didn't have the wealth of information that we do. We have a great deal of information, and this information has proven from one time to another that it is true. And the fact that it is true here is the involvement of the brain and the environment, the involvement of our own chemical system and the environment. So we talk about the nature and nurture issue. This really focuses in on a nature and nurture issues, but it really does not say, hey, nature is more important than nurture, or nurture is more important than nature. And so for the time being, we are going to take the position that both are needed. Now, individuals can change the way they think, the way they act, the way they feel. Take 10 individuals, 20 years of age. You're going to have 5 fellows and 5 gals, or 8 and 2 of one way or the other, 9 and 1. It doesn't make any difference. But just imagine this group of 10 just having a nice visit. And maybe one is concerned about having a lover's quarrel. Maybe one is concerned about a grade. Maybe another one could be concerned about confrontation with the parent. There could be these concerns there. But they're having a visit, fairly good exchange, fairly good communication going on. Now, I don't know where this came from, but alcohol, whether it's beer or wine or whiskey or whatever it is introduced into the setting. And the individuals really aren't against having a drink or two, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, or whatever they decide to. Now, let me ask you this. The introduction of that alcohol beverage and the amount that's consumed, do you think it will change the behavior of any of the individuals? And even more importantly, will it be the same change? In other words, sometimes alcohol causes an individual to like and love everyone, and another person, it may cause this individual to become very aggressive and want to fight everyone. So do you think then that the introduction of alcohol into the setting of 10, and I'm just using this as an example, will change the behavior of each of the 10 of the individuals in the same manner? Yes or no? Probably, I would say that the largest percentage of you would say no, there will be a difference in the way it changes individuals. And that's right. But why should it be? I mean, basically they consume the same amount of alcohol. They are human beings. They're all the same. So why should the alcohol change one individual into being a lover and the other one into being a fighter? What is the difference? What is the difference in the makeup? The alcohol is the same, right? No difference in the alcohol. So the difference then must be the makeup of the individual and what the individuals have inherited. And we want to remember this: the brain has been hijacked. The brain does a good job passing out the chemicals, but now the brain has been hijacked. And so what this leads us to conclude is that even though we may have the same type of skull, the same type of 3-pound brain, that we may have neurotransmitters and synapses and all of this biologically implicated material, there is a difference in the way individuals react, particularly when the brain is hijacked. Now, some individuals can act differently even though the brain has not been hijacked. So what we're looking at here is the approach that we're taking here is to focus on the interaction between what is inherited and environmental influences. Are you with me on this? Okay. This is what we're looking at. Now, I want to stop right here. Make sure to let you know I love biology. This is not a biology course, even though we are going to be looking at some various aspects of biology. I do not expect you to memorize the bones, memorize the parts of the brain. That isn't part of it. But what we're looking for is how one may affect the other as far as the behavior is concerned. In other words, if we take an individual who comes from an aggressive family, and this family has a family history of being aggressive, and taking the youngster when they're very young and putting them with a family who is somewhat more focused on being pleasant, being loving, being supportive, will the individual who's been taken from the aggressive family at a young age, placed with the pleasant family, you can use any term you want to in here, but placed with the pleasant family, will that individual become pleasant, or will that individual remain aggressive as his inherited background states? So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at. Now, to start out, this is called neuropsychology. We have classes in neuropsychology, the study of the brain and how individuals react. This is the biggie of the day. And what we're looking at here is an individual by the name of Phineas Gage. There's Phineas Gage. Phineas Gage worked on the railroad. He was a great fella. He was a nice fella. And they would have to, and this was in the middle 1800s, they would have to put dynamite. They'd drill a hole, they put dynamite in it, and then they take that rod that Phineas is holding in his left hand, and they would stop the dynamite real tight before they exploded it. Well, Phineas did this. He didn't let his workers do this because he didn't want his workers to become harmed. So Phineas did this. And one day when Phineas was stomping the dynamite in, there was a spark from the rock and the hole that was drilled into the rock. It ignited the dynamite, and it blew that rod that Phineas is holding. I think it was about 43 inches long and a little over an inch in diameter, but it blew that rod into his left cheek, and it come out the top of his skull. I mean, it blew it clear through, just like a bullet, just shot it through. And yeah, that hurt. There was complications, but it didn't kill him. Now, the important thing with Phineas Gage is, before this accident happened, Phineas Gage was a very, very nice individual. Always looking out for his workers, always being protective. After this incident took place, Phineas Gage became very combative, very aggressive, and wanted to fight. That concludes this video. We will be going on to video B, but that concludes this video with Phineas Gage.